A little stuffy.
Might crack a window.
Just let me know when you're ready, David.
I'm almost there. Is it almost 6 o'clock?
I think we're there.
Then I'm ready.
We're good? You're good. Sound, rolling, lights, camera, action. Welcome everyone to the Lincolnville Select Board meeting. It is the 22nd of April. Daylight outside, so exciting. Before we get rolling, Mike, would you care to read the quote?
Sure, don't tell me how rough the seas are, just bring the ship in. That's Lou Holtz.
Thank you very much. And before we get rolling, I would like to open the podium for any non-agenda items. Yes, come on down.
I know you have Susan Silverio, 105 Proctor Road, the Heart and Soul Project Coordinator. And I know you have a very extensive agenda tonight, and so I just wanted to draw your attention to page 176, 177, which is the finalized Heart and Soul statements. This was the result of a whole year of, as you know, interviews and stories and surveys, and then they were all brought at the summit on February 11th. And then there was a 30-day vetting period, and we had 187 individuals who weighed in. And I'm so pleased to say every single one was thoughtful, was positive, was constructive, was civil, and we used that to tweak the language so that it still reflected exactly what was in all of the data. And so we're very happy to present these statements. And now we have started into our phase 3. We had a workshop on Saturday, and we had 5 core people and 5 new people, a couple of whom would like to join, be a town appointed to the team. So we're looking forward to having renewed strength with our team as we begin phase 3, which is plan. And we'll be looking at 400 ideas for action, which were already articulated by people of Lincolnville, and we will prioritize them according to feasibility and impact, and then we'll be bringing those back to organizations, and probably not all to you, so don't worry. So that's it, unless you have any questions.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Would anyone else like to speak for the non-agenda items? Seeing nobody, let's move along to the administrator's report.
Beyond the agenda items, just a couple of quick announcements and things that are going on. Moody Mountain Road will be closed to through traffic on Thursday, so we can replace a culvert. It will be closing sometime after the school bus goes by and reopen sometime before the school bus comes back by in the afternoon. That'll be Thursday. Matt's been diligently working on a number of projects that I'll just hit the highlights of. We've commenced with spring cleanup, taken down a couple of dangerous trees out front. Road grading is ongoing. We're about to commence with a roofing project at the beach fire station. We have the incline back in service on the eastern end. The addition off the side is going to be galvanized today, and as the weather and time and tides cooperate, we'll get that back in service here before you know it. Our seawall and sidewalk repairs commenced today down at the beach. Beach bathrooms, the roof has been put back together, still waiting on the siding. We've been diligently working on the ballots for June with our ballot printer and programmer. We had a pre-construction conference last week on Calderwood Lane. That project is scheduled to start in May and be done in June. Stick with us. The floats are in at Breezemere Park. Still need some adjustment there, but they're in. And also working with FEMA on the December storm declaration. Made pretty good progress. Still have a ways to go before we start on January's. Up next is by the end of the month, we have to have our American Rescue Plan Act reporting of use of funds in. So we'll be able to hopefully close that out because we've now used all our funds. That's it till I remember more.
Any questions for David on the administrator's report?
No, I just added, I was talking to Matt about, we cleared out the culvert at High Point too. Spit there,
Yes.
that's now flowing freely.
And remove the trees and debris and, thank you.
All kinds of people. Okay. Let's move along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
All meetings are here unless announced otherwise. The Lakes and Ponds Committee meets Tuesday, April 23rd, 7 p.m. Planning Board meets Wednesday, April 24th, 7 p.m. The next is EMS Performance Review Committee. I'm not sure they're meeting. Lincolnville Central School Committee meets Monday, May 6 p.m. at the Lincolnville Central School. Planning Board meets again on Wednesday, May 8th, 7 p.m. Conservation Commission is scheduled to meet Thursday, May 9th, 4 p.m. Recreation Commission scheduled to meet Monday, May 13th at 4 p.m. I'm not sure that'll actually occur. Check the town office before you show up. And the Select Board is scheduled to meet next on Monday, May 13th, 6 p.m.
Thank you very much. And are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share? Seeing none. Before we get into the meat of the agenda, I just want to point out and get concurrence from the board. We have 2 public hearings scheduled for 6:30, as well as a scheduled time to meet with the DOT at 7:30 due to accessibility request. So with everyone's agreement, we may end up having to jump around a little bit. All right. But we'll do our best to just stay on track and hopefully not cut anyone off mid-conversation. All right, so we have the meeting minutes from April 8th.
I move the board approve the April 8th, 2024 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And we have a community interest form for the Recreation Commission. Bree Rossiter has expressed an interest and is here in case anyone wants to ask any questions. And if not, you can motion.
I move to appoint Brianna Rossiter to the Recreation Commission as a regular member with a term expiring June 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much, and thank you. That was really exciting.
It is customary that you stay for the whole meeting.
Not tonight.
I'll be back on the 13th.
Thank you.
Are you sure? Yeah, sure, okay.
And moving along, as Ms. Daggett, our town attorney, longtime town attorney, has resigned from her position at Jensen Bear because she moved out of state. We have Mark Bauer, who has worked with us on a number of occasions, and he is available to assume the role of our town attorney, and we will need a motion to make that so.
I move to appoint Mark Bauer as the town attorney with a term ending June 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And it is that time of year to appoint election officials. And there is a list of all of the interested, available, willing, and able folks to do that, and we can move them individually or as a group.
Well, I move that the board appoint for 2-year terms all the election clerks provided to us on the list dated April 16th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? having dispatched that agenda item, we do have a liquor license renewal application for Rough Inc., DBA The Inn at Sunrise Point.
I move the board approve and sign the liquor license application submitted by Rough Inc., doing business as Inn at Sunrise Point.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Yeah, I just got one question clerical, and I'm not, on the expiration date, on the application, listed 6/1/2024. Start date is 5/1/2024.
That's for the existing license, so we're just.
Oh, the existing, like,
Yeah,
okay,
so-
okay, good. I
So
thought
they're
you
actually,
said 1
they're
month.
doing a thumbs up job of coming in.
Yeah,
well in
okay,
advance
okay,
of
good.
that.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that, I thought we were looking, 1 month.
They know how
license here.
bureaucracy works.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
And moving along, we have the Historical Society here with a request, suggestion, concept.
Okay, I am Brian, representing the Historical Society. We became aware, a little belatedly, recently, that actually our history didn't start in 1770 with the first arrival of Lincolnville and his wife and his cattle. And we obviously had much earlier habitation of our town, the Wabanaki people, and specifically the Penobscots. And what really got us started on this direction was a gift by Bob Anderson's family of lots of his basket collection of Penobscot-made baskets. And in the process, we began studying his family, the Shea family, who were Penobscots, came down from Indian Island in about 1930, built their tent and made baskets right there in the post office parking lot, today's parking lot. And so in researching that, we learned that actually Penobscot people had names for everything in the state. There's a map, there's a wonderful map of Penobscot names, place names, and Lincolnville Beach had its own name. And we would like to erect a sign. And I'll let Cheryl take over that part.
And you all, I think, have a black and white of what this is, but it will go under the existing sign made by Walt Simmons, who did the other one. So he just did a mock-up here, and we have changed it a little bit and tweaked it. It was Magwinteguat, and those 4 names, syllables, whatever, mean choppy waters or choppy seas. And so on the map for the Penobscots, they did not capitalize. I'm just giving you the technical of what we're going to do on the sign. They did not capitalize any of the first letters or anything, so we'll leave that like they had it, using that Penobscot name, the source, the map as our source, and using choppy seas, because that's how they translate. It's alternately choppy seas, choppy waters, but we're trying to go with the source we're using, so we'll do choppy seas. So it'll be a little bit different than what you see, but this is how it will be, and we would like your blessing or your permission to do that.
Questions for either of them?
No, I think it's a good idea. Pass due.
I think I really appreciate the sentiment. I think it's timely. My only question or concern is, how did you vet which name to land on? It seems like in the information, at least that you provided to us, of all of the different iterations and variations on the name. There's all sorts of different nuance. And so I'm wondering how it was vetted to settle on this one, and then also have you contacted the Penobscot Nation
Yes.
themselves to
Yes.
verify?
We have, and yes,
That's right off the map.
it's off the
Yeah,
map
their
that they
map.
publish, their map is
Okay.
where this particularly came from, and that's why we're using choppy seas, not choppy waters. We have contacted them, we have
Multiple.
made endless calls to Mr. Francis, and went to hear him speak last week or 2 weeks ago in Belfast, and hand delivered a letter to him with that. Have spoken to his wife, who is in agreement, but he just has never answered us. He's never called back or never, he hasn't said no. He didn't say no after the letter was delivered.
Right.
So it's a little conundrum that we have tried
Yeah,
diligently. This is the map he used, so we took it off of what, he would use.
In many parts of the state and around the country, people are using native ones. I think somebody said up in Canada there were 4 different languages, native languages and French and so forth. So for us, it's just, we weren't always Lincolnville, named after a Revolutionary War general that Henry Knox liked. That's where we got our name, Lincoln, Benjamin Lincoln.
yeah.
Some people said, oh, we named her Abraham Lincoln. No, he wasn't born when we got our name. So it's just an earlier name, and that's what our little coast was known as. And we have a wonderful piece, I don't think we included it, but we could send it on to you. A description of that coast was considered, that's just a rocky coast, and of course where the beach is was a marsh, probably, back in the day, and it's about to become that again. But it's a rough coast, and it was considered dangerous. John Smith, Captain Smith, one of the earliest explorers, sailed right by there and had comments on what that was like. No harbor, no real harbor.
So we have diligently tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was very interesting reading that excerpt from Ms. Ekstrom.
Yeah, Fanny.
Right, yeah, and that's sort of what got me thinking is, just thinking, I wanna make sure that, this is an important gesture and that we're getting the right one.
Well, we have wanted to make sure too, and when I say multiple telephone calls, I mean over months, so
This
it's,
has been a long, we've been in process for a long time.
he was hand-delivered that letter when he spoke, and I feel like if he had a problem, surely he would have contacted us with the problem, otherwise that's the best answer I can give you
Okay.
there.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we can make a motion.
Oh, I don't know that we said we would like this up on Memorial Day, that's
Oh,
our
yeah.
aspiration.
Well, there's one other little piece of this, the Farnsworth actually has reached out to us, and we're in collaboration with the exhibit they're gonna have on from Memorial Day till December. It's gonna focus on the Shea family, our Shea family, I mean, that's Bob's grandparents, Bob Anderson's grandparents. So that's kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, Karen.
Thinking about this, and where you have not heard anything, obviously this, I feel this is the right person to bring to the move on that. I wonder if there should be a follow-up before we make a decision. to do this. I certainly would not want to do anything to, and I can't for the life of me figure out if it would be wrong, but I don't wanna do anything.
I hear
We
you.
feel
You
the
know what I
same
mean?
way.
Yes,
And I know
we
you're
do.
doing it the right way, but I wonder if there's a different avenue we should take.
Well, we've spoken to his wife. His wife gave us his phone number and said, call him.
His cell phone number, she said, this
Yeah.
is the way to get in touch with
When he spoke in Belfast, he said, I'm always available to anyone. So, okay.
I'm just concerned about that aspect of it.
Well,
You know what I mean?
we considered it too. I know that up at the university, every single building is UMO now, every has a. A one I can name, and it's got name, I mean, it's all, it's a thing that's happening. And this is definitely their, from their map, and they have a little book of place names and their, the Wabanaki name as well as.
And the university, I'm sure you know, the university went through an extensive vetting process. I mean, it was a long, drawn-out process to make sure that representatives were included in the decision-making process of adopting the names. And I don't think that there's any opposition. I would feel a
Totally
lot.
understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
because we've debated this amongst ourselves now for months.
Yeah.
About how best to contact and get a response, but we've had no response from him.
in person?
Well, yeah, we were at the Belfast talk and handed him.
Well, I'm wondering, trying one more time, reaching out and seeing if you can get a letter or an email back with a concurrence that this would be the appropriate and respectful name to adopt. I think that would be great.
Okay, well, we will make.
Yes, we talk about it.
I think
Yeah, no,
I don't think any
But
one of
I
us
hear
are.
you, and I concur, so, we don't wanna do anything, I mean, we're trying to honor them, not,
Absolutely,
step on their feet, so.
absolutely, yeah, we wanna do this right,
Mhm.
yeah.
And right now, all you know about that little piece of land is it's Lincolnville Beach.
Right,
Thank you, Benjamin Lincoln,
right. Yeah,
which
yeah,
we get to put this other reminder that it wasn't ours.
yep, yeah, no, they're all excellent points, and so as such, I think, let's give it another try, and, if you need help in some way, let's figure that out too, so that we can really
Can
kind
we,
of close that loop.
can we leave it this way, that, because we'd like to do this Memorial Day, because that's when this Farnsworth thing is opening, it would be a nice time around that weekend to have this appear out. If we get a response, can we then let you know the response without having to come back and talk it over again, or do you need us to come back to another meeting?
We do have another meeting on the 13th, so it seems like just to kind of put an official pin in it, if you'd be gracious enough to come back
Sure.
again.
Tell you what we
Even if
found
it
out.
is just the rubber stamp,
Tell you what
and
we found out, yeah.
yeah, and for the record, and, anyone who wants to come and participate in the conversation can have that happen. That would be wonderful, and
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking this on and starting this conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
And as we have 5 minutes before our hearing for our next agenda item, how about we jump to agenda item number 10?
Sure.
And take a long, slow, thoughtful time addressing what is an extension of a liquor license
Bettina.
for the Cellar Door Winery. of which there are ample. We're jumping you ahead in the order, because you've got a public hearing to jump around. So. Number 10. And does anyone have any questions for the applicant, since she's here? Well, if there are no questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move the board approve and sign the request for extension of license privileges as submitted by the Somerville Wine.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you for coming in as always. Do you have any questions for us? Nope. Okay.
I think she's gonna stay for the public hearing on there.
Yep. Let's see, so we can't do, got 4 minutes. Let's jump ahead to agenda item number 16, if that works for everybody.
Sure.
Okay. David, do you wanna speak to this real quick?
Had some correspondence with, or communication with, James Kasuth, the Northport Town Administrator. And we hatched the idea of perhaps getting the two boards together again, similar to what occurred last year, for discussion of items of mutual interest and anything else we can dream up. And their preference was, they're discussing it tonight as well, but their preference was to try to do it sooner rather than later, so we don't get caught up in the summer season and everything else, and suggested a couple of possible dates in May. May 6th and 20th, I believe, from my memory.
Sounds wonderful. I think it's great to get together with our neighboring communities and talk about stuff that's affecting both of us. I am not available on the 6th. I would love to be there, but if that's not possible, David, maybe it would be more effective for you, since Robin is also excused for this meeting, to send out an email for folks to confirm. And, you know, if it looks like everybody's available the 6th, except for me.
Or do we just shoot for the 20th, or?
I am not sure that I'm available the 6th either.
Okay,
I can do it, I think.
So how about we shoot for the 20th?
Okay.
To give Northport a,
A date.
today,
yeah. Okay,
Okay.
let's aim for that and, hope that works for everyone.
Thank you.
Alright, sounds good. Would anyone be opposed to moving on to agenda item number 17, establishing a workshop date with the Recreation Commission? Seeing as how we have appointed a new member, and now the commission has a full complement of regular members. We're still looking for 2 alternates, if anyone out there wishes to participate. Thoughts on that, David?
I think you pretty well nailed it. I think they're looking for a little or more direction, and make sure everybody's all on the same page moving forward now that we've taken on or reassumed the responsibilities for maintenance and upkeep of the athletic fields. And obviously we've had Breezemere Park, and it's just nice to get everybody pulling on the rope.
Any thoughts or dates?
Well,
The 6th is out.
the 6th is out. The other dates, you're probably looking at June at this point. 3rd?
Sure.
Yeah. Meeting coordinator is out of town, but I'm good run on the way here.
And tentatively commit?
She's brutal. Yeah, I think.
That one might be worthwhile following up with an email though. to
Yep.
say,
Yeah, it looks good for me as well.
At 6
Yes.
on the 3rd?
Yep.
We'll shoot for that
6.
email.
Earlier the better.
Okay. Excellent. And is it
It is.
almost
10 seconds.
a second? All right,
Safe to
well, we
start.
have two public hearings, to attend to. Let me get back to that page. And first, we need a motion, specifically to open the public hearing for the first item.
You?
It didn't make it in the packet,
Apparently,
but
apparently the administrator was a
I might as
slacker.
well, I'll move to open, the public hearing concerning the extension of major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. Now, the public hearing is open for the extension of the moratorium ordinance, and I will invite any member of the public that wishes to get up and speak regarding this.
Would you like me to give it just a brief
Sure. Yes,
synopsis
please.
for everybody? Just so everyone knows, if I can find, on December 11th, the voters at town meeting adopted a moratorium ordinance regarding major non-residential development. That is scheduled to expire on May 11th. The applicable state law allows for moratoriums to be extended by the select board after notice and hearing. That's why we're all here. Provided they are, or the town is making, or the problems giving rise to the need for the moratorium still exists, and reasonable progress is being made to alleviate the problem. Just so everybody is aware of what's gone on since December 11th. The select board prepared a charge to the land use committee, found people to serve on the land use committee, appointed a land use committee, prepared requests for qualifications for an outside consultant to assist the land use committee in this work, entered an agreement with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments for facilitation services, and the land use committee has met several times, both with and without Mid-Coast Council of Governments. Last month, the Land Use Committee made a recommendation to the Select Board that they didn't believe their work would be completed prior to May 11th, and suggested that the board hold a hearing and consider an extension, and that brings us up to date with tonight.
And therefore, this is the public's opportunity to get up and speak, voice concerns, what have you regarding this. Please, come on up.
Susan Silverio, 105 Proctor Road. This is a very minor point, but chairing committees, I've been informed that all of our meetings need to be posted on the town website calendar and minutes presented to the town, which then appear in your packets, which you have extensive ones from the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. I saw one land use committee posted on the town calendar. I haven't seen any others. I haven't seen any minutes. And I'm just wondering, are these secret meetings or are they public?
There's literally one just before.
It wasn't on the calendar. So I'm just wondering why. There's just a point of order. I'm sure that this committee is in the excellent hands of Adi Filson, and I'm sure she will guide them perfectly, and with this extension, everything will be done perfectly, but I'm just curious.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to get up and speak regarding this? Seeing no one else interested on speaking during the public hearing regarding this, I will entertain a motion to close.
I move that the board close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Having held a public hearing and identifying that there is an existing need, I will entertain a final motion, please.
I move that the select board find that the problems giving rise to the need for the moratorium still exist and reasonable progress is being made to alleviate the problems, that all the provisions of the town of Lincolnville major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance and are hereby extended for an additional 180 days.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, sorry. Yes.
I'd like to hear from, somebody from the committee to hear what they have done, rather than hear it from this day. We have something like eight, aren't you facilitating that?
Yeah,
Rodeo, maybe you can tell us what they've done.
sure.
Thanks.
Should I go up to the?
You should.
Yes, please.
Awesome. So we've had 2 meetings, so Midcoast Council of Governments is facilitating this process. We've had 2 meetings so far. One was today, was prior to this, and one was in March. So far, we had an initial introduction meeting. Our first meeting was really introductions, talking about the goals of the process and giving us some initial direction. Our meeting today really focused on talking about some of the tools that other towns and cities have used, and with a little discussion really focusing on pursuing some of those tools and dialing in on exactly what we will be proposing. With that, I think one of the things we've been emphasizing is that we'll need a justification of anything that we are proposing, and so we started to think about public outreach for that, and that pretty much summarizes it. But
Thanks.
happy to answer any questions.
We're good. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And the second public hearing regarding special amusement permit for Islesboro Winery, I need a motion, please.
I move to open the public hearing concerning the special amusement permit application filed by the Islesboro Winery.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And now the public hearing regarding the special amusement permit application filed by the Islesboro Winery. Open, and anyone wish to get up and speak? Seeing nobody interested in getting up and speaking, I will entertain a motion, please.
I move that the board close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Having held a public hearing, I'll entertain a motion.
Move that the board approve and sign the request for extension of license privileges as submitted by the Islesboro.
Wrong one.
Wrong one.
Nope, yep. Next one up.
I move that after having held a public hearing, that the board finds that the application submitted by the Islesboro Winery complies with the standards set forth in the ordinance governing the issuance, suspension, and revocation of special amusement permits for the town of Lincolnville, and the permit be granted.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so we are now back to almost being on track. However, agenda item number 11 with the DOT, again, they have a specific time to meet, which is 7:30. So we will proceed. When were we anticipating?
I thought I saw Tracy.
Okay. Because I'd like to move along to meeting with the representative from the school committee. I believe we have the chair coming to meet with us, so as not to get too off track. Hello, welcome. Would you care to come right up to the podium?
Doesn't matter.
Because we don't do discussions from the floor, so.
Do you want us to stand? I will
Yes, please.
Okay. That wasn't me. I know, that's the question, but please answer.
We do that in fairness so that the microphones can pick up the conversations that are being held and so that the cameras can
Focus in.
see. And so what's going out on YouTube, everyone's getting the whole picture as opposed to.
Gotcha.
So welcome, thank you
Yeah.
very much for coming and chatting with us tonight. For those well, actually, David, would you care to give a brief preamble of why we're having this conversation?
Sure, if I can find my paperwork. A month or so ago, the select board through me, received some correspondence from the town of Hope about their concerns or their desires not to hold a town meeting on the school budget without having the audit completed. And they asked what we were doing. So we asked the select board and they said, let's talk to the school committee, and in short order, here you are. And I think that was the primary concern, was not to jump to that when, lines of communication might get us further.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if you'd be willing to sort of speak to where we are right now with the issue of the audit not being completed and maybe what steps you're taking to work towards rectifying it.
Yeah, you got it all laid out, so I feel like
Hi, I'm Kate Clark, Superintendent of Schools. The context for that is that we have been struggling over the last couple of years with staffing and keeping up with all the money that came through in the grants, which were wonderful and very helpful during COVID, but require a lot of extra work. We were on a better trajectory this year, getting ready to complete the audits. And in late January, the auditors told us that they were not willing to meet until all of the grants for 23 were invoiced and approved by the state and federal government. And that was a big moving of the goalpost for us. The state and federal government has a deadline of fall of 24. So that's sort of what we were working toward our invoicing, and we were not in great shape. I'm not gonna say we were, but we were working toward a completely different deadline. And having to back that deadline up has meant a lot of, just refocusing and trying to do this as quickly as possible while we're still running the 3 districts. So that's the background. We have fully invoiced Title I. Title V has 1 invoice left. Local entitlement, which is special ed, has 1 invoice left. This is for 23. The big problem is, the big issue is ESSER 3. There are still, which is the last, you usually call it the ARP grant, is the last big COVID grant. There are still 5 invoices left. That's the one that actually takes the most work. It takes backup. It takes approval at the state level, and I believe at the federal level, it gets kicked back to us a lot right now because they're at the end of the money. They're really scrutinizing things. So it takes some time. For those 5 invoices, what we're hoping, so I've heard from other districts who are also in the same situation, that the state has approved invoicing or allowing more invoices than just, usually the process is 1 invoice, that gets approved, next invoice, that gets approved, next invoice. The state has allowed other districts to invoice for a chunk at a time, which would really get us, that would be great if we can do that. We've checked in, have not gotten a response yet. Person's on vacation till Wednesday, so we'll check in with her again on Wednesday to see if they'll allow us to do that. If they allow us to do that, the outside, just giving time for things to get kicked back or whatever is gonna happen, we could be done in 4 weeks. If they don't allow us to do that, it's gonna be 8 to 10 weeks before we have, and that is a very
what am I trying to say? Generous estimate of time, because we just don't know sometimes whether they're gonna kick an invoice back, how long it's gonna take to give them the paperwork they want, or whatever we missed. So that's where we're at. Okay. We have, though, in the meantime, been working with the school committees on restructuring the office, I guess to say. We added a business manager in January. Right now, she's only 1 day a week. She's a Lincolnville resident, has been absolutely wonderful. And we have changed up some positions so that some folks can focus more on taking care of the day-to-day, getting our vendors paid, people paid, various state reports and all of that stuff done, while one person works as much as possible on the grants for all 3 schools. That's where we are.
Questions for Kate? My biggest question, I think, would be, can we help in some way? You know, is there something that we can do? I mean, it's funny because we operate as such separate entities, you know. The school committee has a significant show to run over at the school. Obviously, your office has a diverse set of circumstances to manage, and then we've got, you know, municipal responsibilities, but we're all in it together, you know, and your monies flow through us and we write the checks, and so, you know, we want to make sure that you have the support that you need to carry this out.
Thank you, and Dave has offered that in the past many times, actually. And I think what we're simultaneously working on when we work on, just once we get over the hurdle of these grants, with the new staffing structure, I think we should be, our goal is to be ready with the 24 audit in August, so that it'll be done by December 30th, and it's an achievable goal. So in some ways, this new goal, the new goal of getting these grants invoices is not a bad thing, because once they're done and gone, and ESSER's the last one. Remember, we had CRF 1, 2, 3, and then ESSER 1, 2, 3. So, but this is the last of those 6 grants. We should be in good stead. So what we've been working on simultaneously is our new business manager is building a relationship with Kayla, to have conversations, to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of things coming in and out, and the way, of course, we do business 3 different ways in 3 different towns. So she's been working with Kayla to, you know, make changes if they make sense, make sure she understands what's going on, and that she can get the information she needs, and Kayla can, and vice versa.
Okay, great. Yeah, Karen.
I just gotta ask this. The budget being delinquent has been going on more than 2 years. Audit, excuse me,
Yeah.
audit. And last year and this year, you've been offered help. And I'm hearing here that you still don't need the help, but in my opinion, it seems that you do. Whether it be with process or procedure, or as simple as managing the people. I told you last year, we can't do this anymore. And I know that was the opinion 3 towns wide. I don't want to be back here again next year. I'm sorry if I sound rough, but we are all elected to represent the taxpayers and their money of the town of Lincolnville, much like the town of Hope, much like the town of Appleton. We have certain things that we have to do with the audit that affects what we do. Maybe the town of Hope and maybe the town of Appleton do different things, but there should not be a comparison amongst the 3 by this superintendent's office. We are schools, yes, but we all have different needs. But the audit is one that we all need. we can't go through this again. And it appears to us, because of the answers that we get, that it's a personnel issue.
I just want to make sure though, we don't go down the personnel road, because that's joint school committee and
I'm
not.
not doing that. I'm
Okay.
just saying, I am recapping what I'm hearing. So, you're gonna be back here next year?
One more year, Mr. White.
Well, I'm not asking if you yourself are gonna be head
Oh,
of
am I
the
back here?
organization. I mean, back here to explain why the audit isn't done.
I sincerely hope not. If there's anyone in the room or anywhere else who thinks this is fun, this is not. This is
Well,
not anything
my
that we're.
conversation with you is not fun right now. I know it's not fun for you and it's not fun for me, but I've got a couple thousand people that I have to answer to, and I'm trying to turn a bad situation right. And we've done it multiple years. We've tried this multiple years, so it needs to move forward and go away.
Agreed.
I think the difference between this year and previous years is that we're wrapping up the grants from, thank you, we're wrapping up the grants from the COVID funding. So those put a lot of extra work, not just on the central office here, but also on the state,
Yep.
which does make a difference.
But I think it was identified more than a year ago that there was more help and more, how do I want to say this? More help needed, but more importantly, more specific help needed to achieve what you needed to achieve to get the information to the towns. And we were told that that's what you were doing. You were going to move forward and do that. I just heard that you hired one person.
Well, we have had staffing issues, which I think is pretty
And also
common.
just getting into personnel at the superintendent's office, certainly give us your recommendations, but this isn't the appropriate venue
I'm
for
not getting into personnel issues.
who's hired or
I'm
not
trying
hired
to
at the
figure out how we're
superintendent's
fixing
office.
it, and as far as I'm hearing, it's not fixed. So,
So I think she said that she has the invoicing ready for the beginning of August, that we'll be able to submit the information so that by December. So they've been able to keep up with current end month reconciliation, so that this year, while they're doing concurrent and also doing past historical invoicing for this COVID, that means that this year, at the end of this fiscal year, calendar school year,
Yeah, 24.
we will be able to submit it, so that then we'll be able to have it done by December 31st.
And I guess I want to dig in a little bit about when I was asked just now if I need help, and you're saying I said no. What I said, just to clarify, and let me make sure that, is that I do believe that Kayla and Steph are working together to make things more streamlined. So that is help. This is school funded accounting is different than your typical accounting. So it's not easy. This is a lesson I've learned over the last year, because we have had difficulty with staffing, getting the right people in. Fund accounting is very different. School regulations are very different, and it's a lot more complicated than if you're running a business, money in, money out. It's not money in, money out. So it's hard to ask for help I know last year we talked a lot about just getting payroll, somebody to come in and do payroll so we could loosen up or alleviate some duties, right? That was, I think, last June. And I spoke to Joanne Allen, who is the head of Maine Association for School Business Offices, and she said, yeah, that every district she's heard of that has done that has gone back to hiring somebody in their office to do this, because companies don't want to do all the pre-work it takes to do your payroll. They only want to do your payroll. Well, there's a ton of work that's done before that. And so if we're going to do all that work, we might as well hit the button and get the payroll sent out. So it's just not as easy. And I've learned that since last June, to find the kind of help that we need. But I do think we've got 3 people in there now who understand school fund accounting, and I think we're on a roll. And I have thought this before, but we have had to change staff for various reasons. But we are not, around the seacoast, there are a lot of districts that are not done with their 23 audit. We're not alone. This is a statewide issue. The auditors are overwhelmed. The auditors are shorthanded. They're having trouble with staffing as well. It's not just, and I don't mean ours specifically, I'm just hearing this all through the district, all through the towns from various superintendents. I did a little straw poll, and when I did that straw poll, which might have been 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think it was 21 districts I had checked in on. 4 were done, 4 small, easy audits were done for 23. Something like 16 were not. I know I'm on TV, so I hate to say these things, but I'm not sure if I'm exactly right. And 2 hadn't even had their 22 done yet. So my only point is, I'm not happy with it, and I'm not sitting on my laurels, and we are working really hard in my office, but it is also a huge problem in the state, and probably in lots of other states too. So, I appreciate your patience.
Yeah, I'm hearing that you have some real deadlines that you're working towards actively, and hopefully hitting that 4-week mark,
Yeah.
assuming
That would be great.
but what the state ends up doing is beyond your control, so hopefully hitting that 4-week mark is depending on how the interface with the state works. And if not, the fallback is the 8 to 10 weeks, but there is
There is
it's
going to be over.
in bureaucratic standards, that's actually not a
And I
lifetime.
can keep Dave posted as we hear from the person in the state and see whether or not we get the.
Yeah, we'd love that. I mean, mostly because I think that, speaking for myself, but not for the board, but I feel like what we don't want to do is just pull the emergency brake while we're driving down the I-95. What we want is everything to keep happening and to keep finding solutions. And so if our board or if town office staff resources can be helpful, I'm sure David can figure out how to allocate some town office staff resources to help smooth that out in order to make this happen so that we have the numbers and we have the audit so that we don't default on our loans and we don't default on other stuff that's going on. And going forward, hopefully, we could have conversations like this earlier so that folks are aware. I mean, a lot of conversations we have here are just sort of an FYI so that people know what we're working on and talking about. But just opening up and keeping those lines of communication open so that we're all pulling on the same rope together for the same purposes.
We usually do have on our monthly agenda, a discussion about the audit to get those updates, so they should be always part of our monthly meeting minutes as well of what's happening with the audit. And so I definitely think that if you can just forward those to you guys each month, if that's easier for you guys. I mean, does that work? That way
that
that you
sounds
guys
great.
are hearing what's at a public meeting?
No information is bad information.
I know, well, I'm like, we do discuss it, it's just I don't know necessarily, and this is on me, what is gonna be something that another committee is gonna wanna know or not know, or,
Sure.
because we do all have some overlap a little bit, but ultimately still separate lanes that are only what we can deal with, and so it's.
Yeah, Steve.
So, thank you for coming and providing us the update, and I do understand fund accounting and stuff that way. I've had some exposure there in the past. I do not. And so I know it's difficult. When people hear about audit and it's not done and risk of potential issues, they get concerned, they ask questions. So to be really clear though, outside of these invoices that need to be resolved for the grants, the audit is done except for those items.
Well, we gather the information, and that
Okay.
the auditors won't even begin the audit until that was their latest, that was what Hope said that email about.
So, but in January,
Yeah.
in January, when you learned that they weren't gonna continue gonna work on the audit at all until what you were were you planning on in November? Was everything ready to go that you thought you needed going into January for the audit?
I think there's still a little bit more to do.
Okay,
But
okay, that's fair.
it's being worked on also at the same time as quickly as we can. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know at this point, in January, there was stuff to do.
Okay. And then, I know it's a different sized town, it's a different community, but it's in our district. Appleton's audit is done, to my understanding.
Appleton's is a different auditor.
Okay,
Their 22 audit is not yet complete. That is not us, but.
okay,
And the 23, they got a fund balance number for their 23 from that auditor 2 weeks ago.
but it's not complete though.
Right.
Okay, good, nice clarification, thank you.
Any other questions? Again, we really appreciate, the intent is to get to the good place for all of us. And so, some of the conversations are challenging because we're all under a lot of stress and scrutiny and lots of opinions. And so, thank you for taking the time to come speak with us. And, we appreciate the insight that you've offered.
And definitely, if anybody does have questions, let us know, if there's got community members that are coming and asking questions about it, we're happy to have them, direct them directly to us, since we'll be able to answer, should be able to answer what's going on with the school side of the audit anyway.
Okay, great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along, since we're still holding agenda item number 11, I guess we can move along to agenda item number 13, which is consideration of the special town meeting warrant for the LCS budget meeting. Do you want to speak to this briefly, David?
Sure. The Lincolnville Central School, and the school committee has developed their proposed FY25 budget, presented that to the budget committee. And last Thursday, the budget committee made their recommendations regarding that budget. The proposal is for the special town meeting to be held on the 16th of May in the Walsh Common, the Lincolnville Central School at 6 o'clock. To act on the 16 articles, which then the dollar amounts get set that night, and then on June 11th, as part of the annual town meeting, when you vote on select board members and school committee members and budget committee members and 5-town CSD board members, you'll also have a question that, instead of me making it up, I might as well read it. It says, do you favor approving the Lincolnville Central School budget for the upcoming 24-25 school year that was adopted at the latest Lincolnville Central School budget meeting? That's statutory language, which means, do you approve what was done at the May 16th meeting? So if the select board chooses to sign this warrant, everybody should show up on May 16th at 6 o'clock in the Lincolnville Central School to vote on the school budget. And then again on June 11th.
Did anyone in the audience want to get up and speak to this? Sure.
Once again, Susan Silverio. I just want to say I'm so proud of the town of Lincolnville for not doing what the town of Hope is doing, which is basically shutting down their government. And I think this is the kind of conversation, that's a responsible conversation. Thank you for having it. I'd like to say that I'd like to think that every taxpayer in this town is aware of the fact that there was a worldwide pandemic that has slowed everything down. If I've learned anything about working with the town the last few years is due municipal process. And guess what? Things have come to a screeching halt, and with not only with staffing, but also with funding, and I think taxpayers understand that.
Thank you.
Would anyone else care to get up and speak on that? Thoughts from the board? I would encourage everyone in this audience and everyone watching, having participated in the process, if anyone looks at what this warrant has within it, you will see some noted disagreements that were had within the articles. And part of that is because there are numbers that were not complete or correct at the time that the budget committee had their meeting with the school committee. And so I'll say before I ask the board to move on this, that I'm fully in support of putting this before our voters and before our taxpayers to have the open floor dynamic conversation, but to read what is being put before you and ask questions, come, be present, because there is enough discrepancy between what the various vetting organizations, committees, budget committee, school committee, et cetera, have presented thus far. I am going to be in favor of moving this forward to the voters, but I'm also going to be present to ask more questions at the time. So I guess I will ask for a motion.
I move that the board approve and sign the special town meeting warrant for May 16th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, further discussion.
I just wanted to add on to what you just said, that people need to be paying attention, because it's the most discrepancies I've seen in,
Ever.
yeah, more than just the 2 years I've been on this board, but in how many years I've paid attention, there's 6 different major discrepancies between the school committee and budget committee on this, and people need to come attend that meeting on May 16th.
They're not minor discrepancies.
No.
And I guess I will add with the 19% increase, you know, we're looking at $600,000 additional, and there's questions and nuance. There aren't clear-cut answers about the whys behind those numbers, and so hopefully we can all get to a place where we're resolved at the numbers that we're putting forward, as David said, for that article that ends up at town meeting. So, yeah, any further discussion?
I'm not on the board, but I just would like people to know that once these warrants are approved, the warrants and the background information that we have will be available here, and will also be posted on the website under announcements. There'll be town meeting information. We'll add to it the sample ballots and those type of things as those become available to us. And obviously, these warrants are posted public and conspicuous places throughout town as required by statute.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yep. So all those in favor? Thank you very much. And moving along, having dispatched with that item, we have the consideration of the annual town meeting warrant.
I move that the board approve and sign the annual town meeting warrant for June 11th and June 13th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? None, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And we have, to countersign warrants and notice of election for, calling the 5-town CSD budget validation referendum, as well as the warrant and notice of election calling the 5-town CSD referendum regarding the building project. David, you want to give a preamble on that one?
Sure, similar to the Lincolnville Central School budget, the five-town CSD, which is our high school, the school board there calls a budget meeting, which will be held on May 11th, maybe?
Yeah.
Monday, May.
13th.
One more click and I'll be there, I think. Monday, May 13th at 7 PM in the Bisbee Theater at the Camden Rockport Middle School, where the budget for the high school will be established. And then on June 11th, as part of the voting procedure we do here at the school, when we do, once again, the select board and school committee elections, you'll receive a single question from the five-town CSD about adopting their budget that was approved at their latest meeting, which is the May 13th meeting. And they can't have the ballot without the select board approving and countersigning the warrant that the school board put together. So that's what the board's doing. And then the other question, you want to talk about the other one too?
Yeah.
The five-town CSD is proposing to construct I'll read it right out of the question. Construct and equip a new approximately 1,800 square foot special education classroom building on the Camden Hills Regional High School campus, and to expend up to $750,000 from the district's capital reserve fund for this purpose. So that'll be another question you'll see on June 11th. The five-town CSD school board is proposing to construct a separate building.
Great, thank you. I'll entertain a first motion, please.
I move that the board approve and countersign the warrant and notice of election calling Five-Town Community School District budget validation referendum to be conducted on June 11th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And the second item, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve and countersign the warrant and notice of election to call Five-Town Community School District referendum to be conducted on June 11th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And still holding agenda item number 11. We'll move on to agenda item number 18. And David, would you speak to this?
Sure. Recently received some new guidance from the Maine Municipal Association Legal Services regarding guidance on public comment at board meetings. Attempted to try to reconcile that with your rules of procedure and your policy on decorum, which turned out to be a little bigger job than I thought it would be. And so I kicked the can and put it on your agenda and said we'd probably look to try to do this and adopt any changes necessary in June when you do your annual policy evaluation. But wanted to bring it to your attention because there are some interesting guidance and perspective on public comment.
Yeah. Questions for David?
And I would encourage any and all of you, if you didn't get a chance to read them and compare and contrast to your current policies, to do so, so that when we actually do adopt a policy or revisions, we can hopefully do that easily rather than painfully.
We're gonna have a draft language available for that meeting.
Oh, yes.
And for anyone in the great world out there in our audience wondering what stimulated this conversation, apparently it's become really popular over Zoom for individuals to be less than respectful in the way that they participate in the meetings, and so it's forced a number of conversations regarding freedom of access laws, First Right Amendment speech, all of those kinds of things. So making sure that we can continue to facilitate public participation in the most respectful and constitutionally correct way without, or giving municipal leaders and committees and commissions the tools that they need to handle a situation should it become anything other than productive or respectful. Okay, so we'll await further developments, and in the meantime, we'll all review our own policies and procedures so that you know what to expect when we see the changes coming for us. Let's move along to select, I'm trying to go slow as possible with that. Select persons updates. Kern, do you have an update for us?
I have a Midco Solid Waste Board of Directors meeting on Wednesday night, 6:30 at the John French Conference Room. We will be discussing and possibly voting to approve our new vendor to take our trash. Or it might stay the same, I'm not sure. They've got 3 to choose from, and it's an important meeting.
Who are they looking at?
I have to go to my packet.
Oh.
The current vendor right now, and there are 2 others. I just started to get into that, so it's not information we were afforded much before, right? So.
And me looking at going back to like a waste to energy recapture
I
situation?
have mentioned that a couple of times, and we're considering a lot of options, but there again, our contract runs out in June.
Yeah.
We can't just,
Part of the challenge, having followed this from the side, is that the 2 potential waste to energy facilities in Hamden and Orrington, neither are functioning, and both are doing, maybe in a different location, doing what we're doing with trash, which is landfilling it. I don't believe Midcoast Solid Waste, I don't know if they saw it, but they did not get any proposal from Eagle Maine.
no.
No.
It's my understanding they weren't solicited. So, and that has been brought up. There's been a lot of conversation about NRC, all of that, but you gotta consider what's available, what's viable, what's not. You can't move our garbage to a whatever, or a trial.
Yeah.
Because one of the big things is there's not a lot of facilities that want to go with a 3-year contract anymore. They want to go on a 5. Is the, and sometimes you can talk them to a different strategy, but we're working on it.
The shame Eagle Maine wasn't solicited.
It was asked about, but it wasn't solicited.
Okay. All right, thanks for that update.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have an update for us?
Yeah, the nominations for the executive committee for the Maine Municipal Association are coming due. Deadlines in a few days, matter of fact. So I'm giving you short notice if you're interested in any of that. Contact David, and he'll get you the nomination forms.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Steve, do you have an update for us?
I have one.
And I also do not have an update. We have the treasurer and payroll warrants to approve and sign.
Yeah, I meant to throw that last one out a little bit longer.
I know, come on, Mike. Someone care to make a motion for the treasurer and payroll warrants?
I move that the board approve and sign the treasurer's and payroll warrants.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much.
Actually, I'm on the agenda as a jerky.
We need it to be 10 minutes from now magically somehow. David, how much preparation do you need to do in terms of,
All I need to do is see them on there and they'll either pop up or I'll move them over from attendees to,
Stuff to sign.
oh yes, you've got plenty to
I was
sign.
gonna say, those permits,
yeah, if you'll indulge us, since we're waiting for magical 7:30 to roll around, we'll sign some paperwork and, keep our eye on the clock.
You can take those apart if you want, if that helps at all. Oh, speaking of that, we have a participant.
here's your first. Oops. Here's your first pile.
Yeah, just do that one.
For one more.
Well, yeah, it's in the book, yeah. They told me it's supposed to launch. Yeah, that's the one.
Is this another pile I gotta go through?
Yes, it is. And so is the clipboard. Sorry.
You haven't gotten the stamps?
Fortunately, ballot clerks only have to be done every 2 years, so.
Oh, it's not gonna happen for a while.
Twice a week.
That's what I just said.
You don't get this stamp. Oh, no, you have this, you just don't get to use it.
Oh.
Little piece of land.
There are other things around my house.
Here, why is this,
Next pile. Come on, Steve.
We won't be done when the public hearing next session starts, so. Keeps feeling and sliding. There we go.
Let me feed them to you one at a time.
That would be nice.
You need a nice little conveyor belt that just
Yeah.
goes by and just do this over and over.
Yes.
Stop. Stop printing.
And the bridge
You're not even a quarter done.
no, you're not gonna.
Sometimes, 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 I guess.
We were efficient at moving through the first
Yes.
20 agenda items, 19.
I'm grateful that you picked it up today.
Where?
Are you
Slow.
I'm glad I'm at the beginning of this line. Thanks for sitting over here tonight.
You're welcome. No offense, I'm not doing it again, it throws me completely off.
I don't want to be behind all these.
Stop, Steve. Just stop.
Next shredder around here. That might have been, it might be the Thursday.
He was waiting for things to sign.
She's faster than you and I.
He just draws a line with a loop.
I'm more mercenary, my approach.
Notice the current being late signatures starting to dissolve.
My mother would be here.
First one doesn't look like the last one anymore.
10 hours.
10 hours,
Oh,
so,
yeah, I started.
Like,
my first signature would look nothing like my last one.
Yeah, Karen, do you remember your penmanship grades from school?
My mother would not allow anything less.
I had claim to fame in high school.
What's that?
Claim to fame in high school?
Yeah.
At graduation, Mrs. Sturdy get up, give
no.
out awards. I had the fastest typing award.
Wow.
She goes, I've never awarded this, but I didn't take 4 years of typing. This person went to 1 semester of personal typing. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, very good stuff. I don't believe the award you want. I think the reason she didn't like me, she listened to her husband talk about what was going on in town, and her husband was a law enforcement officer with the town
I will say my 1.5 year of personal typing was the best class I took in high school. Well, not the best, but helped me the most. Otherwise, I don't know how I'd ever accomplish anything.
Yeah, I've been out for a while. The pointer on her, soft rubber nozzle. I've got a couple of those.
This is the most raucous select board. All these people talking. I've
I don't
heard.
know who's running this meeting. At least you can hear me.
Almost done on that stack there, Chris? Good, I got another stack totally ready for you.
Need 50 to 20%. I'm on a roll here.
I'm almost done with this stack. I'm gonna hold you up. Oh, there you go. You got those today. So then we got all those liquor labels.
So you don't have to sell it.
No,
Not at all.
Watch my cord.
You want me to rip?
Jump rope over that.
Rip that out from the?
Preferably not. Oh,
We need a signature on these, so we're good. Whoa, checks are coming up.
that's Bettina's. This is Andy
I
right now.
know. I was like, oh my word. Okay.
About 80. One at a time, Mike.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that guy was kind of interesting. He talked to me with the dovetail on the drawers. He said, none of these drawers leak. Pull them all open. Nothing inside.
You signing more stuff?
You don't have to print that. We can fill in that.
Oh, wow. You're gonna speed me up.
If you just sign.
The most important piece, huh? Just sign.
Well, it's all important, but
Okay.
we might as well make it as easy for the bosses as possible.
Okay.
Blake, we gotta sign those too?
Good luck.
I'll try again.
Yeah, she'll
Right
be
away.
here all day.
Stack it with my.
He just has his camera mic off, so.
Okay, forward 7:30, so.
Oh, there he is.
All right, Karen, you wanna take a pause in that, and everybody, we're 7:30, we have our DOT representative present, thank you for quieting down. They're both attending via Zoom, so we'll figure out audience questions and, yeah. Welcome our DOT representatives, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine, thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's see, David, would you care to give just a brief introduction and then we'll give the floor to our friends from the DOT?
Sure. Last year, the Maine Department of Transportation commenced with a parking study regarding Lincolnville Ferry Terminal. And shortly after the study commenced, the former McLaughlin's Lobster Shack property was listed for sale. And the state of Maine acquired a purchase and sale agreement for the property in November and closed on that property in March. And there's been a fair amount of community interest in that project. And so the select board invited Orel to attend as the project manager, and I don't see Jeff. I don't know if Jeff's coming, but anyhow, to discuss the project goals, progress, anticipated future steps, timeline, and answer some questions. And I think that's probably a quick and dirty summary.
Yep, and I think it's worth just remarking that while there's a lot of conversations regarding DOT projects, this is specifically regarding the ferry project parking lot area. So it doesn't have anything to do with any of the multitude of other DOT projects that are happening. So the floor is yours. Would you care to give an introduction and?
Sure. My name's Orel Gono, as David mentioned. I am a project manager with the multimodal program here at Maine DOT. Jeff Tweedy, my boss, was going to join us, but he sends his apologies. He had difficulty scheduling nurses, and he doesn't have a nurse for the night, so he couldn't make it. So he did want me to send his apologies. So yeah, David, he really pretty much wrapped it up in a nutshell there. I was tasked with a project earlier on last year to hire a design firm and look at what the options were, what the needs were for parking for the ferry terminal, and what options there might be in the area. I guess the department has looked at that in the past, and to no avail. They came up with no real good solution. And so I hired Gore Palmer to look at it, and we really didn't get to the end of the study period before the parcel came up for sale. So we got as far as identifying what the needs were for the terminal, like the amount of spaces, the busy time of year. Obviously, I'm sure you guys are all well aware that in July and August and even into September, it's pretty backed up around there. So what Girl Palmer's research identified was that the terminal needed about 30 plus or minus spaces to make it a little more functional and to handle the parking needs that were there during the peak season. So we were looking at options for just, is there something seasonally that we can use? Is there a solution, whether it involved an off-site and bus transportation between an exterior parking lot and the terminal? We kind of considered all the options. But when the Lobster Shack parcel was offered, or came up for sale, we looked at that and what benefits that might have for us. We looked at how many spaces it would possibly provide, what that layout might look like, and was it worth purchasing? And management decided that it was worth purchasing, so we did enter a purchase and sale agreement. And as David noted, we closed on March, so the department or the state now owns that parcel. I don't know if you are aware, but the sewer district did also reach out to us recently and asked if we'd be interested in that little parcel that used to have their facility on it next to the boat launch. And my understanding is they also came to the town and asked the town prior to that. But I don't have any details on that yet. We're still looking at it on our end to see what that parcel might have to offer as far as space and benefits. So we haven't even gotten back to them on that yet. We're still looking at it. So with that, I do have, I think if I can share my screen, am I able to share my screen?
I think so. If not, I'll set you up.
No, looks like I'm going to be able to. So Goral Palmer came up with this schematic, if you will. Move that out of the way. Early on, when we were looking at purchasing the Lobster Shack parcel, we just asked them, how many spaces do you think, what would that layout look like and how many spaces could we potentially get out of there? So they came up with this scenario that included a sidewalk and some green space, and it amounted to 64 parking spaces, which is, like double what we really minimally of what we think we need. So that's kind of what swayed us to move forward with the purchase. Now this is just, conceptual, obviously. As we start design, I think it may get combined down to, say, one entrance as opposed to two as shown on this, and further away from the intersection. But again, we haven't even got a contract to start the design yet for this. So, and that's pretty much it to date. Moving forward, we are going to contract with a designer to further this design, and that process it'll entail a public meeting like we do for all of our projects. Those are done virtually now online, so folks can do it at their leisure. But I guess with that, I can open it up to any specific questions you folks might have.
Great, thank you. Select board, since we have so many really steadfast audience members who have stuck with us through the literal entire agenda, would you be okay with them asking their questions first? Okay, but we already need the podium. So while we get the podium set up, who would first like to ask questions? Okay, great. So if you want to come up to the podium, and when David gives you the thumbs up, you can introduce yourself just for the record, and then go ahead and ask your question. Or statement, whatever.
Hi, Maria Herrera. So, looking at the preliminary design, I see 30 more parking places than you need. And my question is, since what we're losing as Lincolnville residents is a really nice big green frisbee throwing place, a takeout to bring our kids, in between ball games, and what we're gaining is a lot of blacktop. And I'm just wondering, when you start moving into your final designs, whether you will take into consideration just making enough spaces for what you need and leaving us with the only green space in Lincolnville. That is it, that's the only green. So I'm just wondering if you guys are taking, is there gonna be room for a food truck down there, or something that keeps the atmosphere of the beach, because it's not all about who goes out to Islesboro. This is like the jewel, this is our Riviera, this is our spot, you know, so it's all.
Sure. So one thing we will have to do is keep the minimum setback from the mean high water line, which is 25 feet. And the conceptual sketch that I showed does do that. So there is going to be some green space between the beach area or the shoreline and the parking lot. And there's a pretty good amount of green space, as you saw, along the roadway area, particularly at the corner by the intersection, that there's no good way to make additional parking there. I mean, the shape of the lot's pretty odd in itself. So, but we do have to maximize the amount of spaces we get out of there. The terminal is going to continue to grow. There's always going to be a need there. And though I say the terminal itself only needs 30 spaces, the additional spaces are going to be available for day parking, or whether it's beach goers or some workers that are going across to the island on the ferry or whatever. But it, from our perspective, I'll be honest, it doesn't make sense to not maximize the amount of spaces that we can get out of it, but not to the extent of, making small spaces that aren't big enough for, normal vehicles. A lot of the vehicles, there's still large trucks out there that are a lot wider than they used to be. So we did hear from the town manager earlier. His first comment to us was, give us as much green space as you possibly can. So our intent, I guess, just to be upfront, is to make as much of the unutilized space, because of the shape of the lot and all of that, and make that as green as possible, make it as much as we can.
Thank you. Yep, please come down.
My name's David McLean. I'm resident down on the beach as well. I do a lot of work out on the island, so I'm taking the Quicksilver, along with a lot of other people who work daily out on the island year-round. And everybody's in agreement that more parking is needed. But as a resident down there, the green space that is available, I suppose, that's an important part right there, because everybody is down there. There's a lot of business interest. We've got restaurants that are trying to come back after these storms, by the way. And we have innkeepers, we have people that are doing short-term rentals, self-catering kind of rentals. So it's a very attractive place. So with those green spaces that there are, that you've identified, it's going to be really important to everybody here what is done with those green spaces. How is it going to enhance the area, rather than, because you're going to have to try and mitigate that blacktop, because a lot of people that come up here, that's kind of what they're trying to get away from as well. It's kind of a double-edged sword, so to speak. So that's what I think a lot of people are going to be very interested to follow and see what the final plan is. So the more you can make that green space interesting, maintaining the character of the beach, making it an attractive place where people want to come to, it's going to be very important. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Brew Temple. I'm a neighbor of Lincolnville Beach, and I had a couple of questions. I want to keep it on topic, but you can see where this question's going. Do you all anticipate growth of the need of parking when the new ferry comes?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, everything is continuing to grow. Obviously, there's more and more people moving to Maine, and the island is growing. You know, we are upgrading the ferry, as you know, and we're upgrading the electrical to the ferry to service the new ferry. And demand is increasing. It's hard to predict how much that will increase, but there's no reason to think that it's not going to continue to steadily increase. So again, that's why we can't promise that we have to maximize the number of spaces that we can get, and not, maybe we can not maximize it. This says we can get 64 out of it. Maybe we comfortably get 60 out of it, but it's not a significant amount of difference at that point, I don't think. But every little space helps. I get what you're saying, and I get the concerns. But I don't know the answer to your question. Other than, yes, it's going to continue to grow, and the demand is going to continue to grow. Whether it's a few more vehicles per year, or if it's 100 more per year at some point, I don't know.
So in that proposal, there were a couple of different options given. Some of them included remote auxiliary lots. One of them even suggested a parking garage. Are those items going to be put on hold now that this property has been acquired?
Yes.
Is it the DOT who issues the permitting for that parking lot?
The permitting is done by agencies, Army Corps of Engineers, DEP, whichever one is in that area, I guess, depending on what the work is and where it is.
No, I'm sorry. Wrong question. So currently, if you wanted to, let's say, park your car there one day during the summer, you would need to get a parking pass. If you were a worker on the island and you were going out there multiple days, you might consider getting a parking permit, which would allow you to park there for multiple days.
Correct.
Is that something that you all regulate?
That is managed by the ferry service at the terminal.
Mm-hmm. Do you anticipate them making this new parking spaces permitted space?
Yes, they would handle it the same as they handle the other parking lot that's existing today. It would all be paid parking, just like the other parking lot.
Okay. And part of the consideration in that original thing was first I'd like to make a comment, is that I think some of the stuff in that report may have been slightly exaggerated. Maybe it was just a brief snapshot, or a combination of getting specific people's opinions on how they feel about how things happen down there. Has there been any thought in addressing the ferry line that, I will agree, does occasionally reach out across Route 1?
Yes, in fact, when the sewer district called and offered their parcel, we're looking at the option of, or possibility of what that might be able to change the staging. Does it give us the opportunity to relocate the staging over in this area as opposed to making it parking and increase parking on the other side, where the staging is now? I honestly don't think there's a benefit there. I think we'd gain more parking with this concept that we have now than we would gain by moving the staging over, but we haven't really looked at that, sketched it out to analyze it yet.
All right. I think I just want to follow up with 2 points of comment. One is, I hope that when you're doing this and working on this project, you take into consideration a good opportunity to install charging capabilities for electric vehicles.
Okay, yeah.
And as far as the property is now, like I hear what my neighbors are talking about as far as green space. But if you were to go there today, I wouldn't necessarily call it a beautiful space as far as where's the structure and the dumpsters are. So I look forward to seeing what you all propose. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to get up? Yeah, Catherine.
I'm Catherine Littman. I have a question about your lighting proposal for this area. Right now, the ferry terminal has lighting, which is very, very great. And to see a parking lot with all lit up really would be detrimental to this little beach area. So I'm just curious if you've thought about what lighting you've thought about for that area.
Well, we haven't, like I said, we haven't started the design yet. We are anticipating putting lighting. It's necessary for safety, particularly in the winter when the days are short and if the ferry's running after dark or before daylight, then people are going to need to have some light there. I really don't have a sense of what that is going to really look like at this point.
Right.
But that thought did cross my mind. The best thing I could think is we would look at doing the shortest poles possible to minimize any light spillage. And like I said, we haven't. Yeah.
Our downtown district actually has very tactful, old-fashioned lights, very low. And if you could follow that scheme in there, it would be very helpful. You know,
Okay.
the minimal amount of lighting necessary for that area, because I can't envision it just being a blast of lights for a parking lot that is not used in the winter. And what the neighbors will affect us tremendously. I think that would be really nice of you to consider that.
Okay. Making myself a note. I like that suggestion.
And the other thing, I also envision a big blacktop parking lot. And I think that there could be creative ways with the landscaping to minimize the blacktop, to put in areas with trees and shrubs, etc., to cut down on that blacktop feel of it. You know, that is something you could consider as well.
Sure. Yeah, we'll look at that. We have actually I work in multimodal, and we have 2 landscape architects that work with us, Kent Cooper and Larry Johannesman, and you may know them. Larry does all of the scenic byway stuff for us. And Kent does a lot of the landscaping for projects like this one. So we can certainly utilize their expertise as well.
And is there any hope that the ferry service would like to open a restaurant? Perhaps? It's dire need of a restaurant there.
I have a cousin who's a chef, but he's gainfully employed right now, so I don't cook well.
There's plenty of space, you don't need all that parking. Just a thought.
Anyone else care to get up and ask a question? All right, Gary?
Hi, Oral. I did a lot of projects with Paul Pottle.
Oh, yes, yes.
What I wondered is, would the DOT be at all interested or able to talk with Department of Conservation about moving and building a new boat ramp as part of this project? And possibly moving it away from its existing position, it could get away from the congestion whenever someone's trying to launch a boat and unload a ferry at the same time. So I think in the study, they talked about it's unfortunate that the boat ramp was where it was, and if the town proceeds with improving the boat ramp, it's only gonna make that problem worse. So I just wondered if the two state agencies would at least have one or two meetings to talk about a joint project with a master plan that could get built out. I know the Department of Conservation, the boating facilities people, they want more saltwater boat ramps. So, and I think they have funds to do those. And at the same time, someone could buy the sewer district property and make it a much better situation for everybody.
Does the town have a new location in mind? I know there was discussion about this before relocation of the boat launch, but
Steve Rules designed a boat ramp in the existing location. But I think it would be much better if it was further to the north or whatever direction you want to call that, away from the ferry terminal itself. And then you could have some car and trailer parking and move all your operations closer to where you want to be. So I thought I'd put that out there for you, and I could talk with you more about it sometime if you wanted to, or certainly talk with the selectmen about it.
yeah, it's certainly it's an intriguing idea. My understanding from some conversations I heard around that not too long ago, in the past 2 years probably, the water depth was the bigger concern for the boat ramp. If you move it north, the water gets considerably shallower.
Yes, it doesn't. What I thought was it needs to be built out anyway to get it steeper. It's too shallow right now, so you don't have the 12 to 14% slope. So if you build it out, and then you could also direct it towards the deep water. So it could cross your property now that it's yours, but if you cross your property without any worries about riparian rights to accomplish getting to the deep water. But you're right, you'd have to do some topo of that law, but the Department of Conservation could do that. I just thought before the horse is completely out of the barn.
Yep, glad you mentioned it.
Research on that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Gary. Did anyone else care to get up? Ask a question, comment? No? Okay.
Yeah, just really quick. So, Maria Herrera again, I'm just curious, we have a lot of groups in the town that really care about planning for the future. We've got just all sorts of groups that really care, and I'm wondering, as this design moves forward, would there be any interest in having some citizens have input, so that way you might think, oh, this is plenty of green space, and we look at it and go, oh, right up by Route 1, nobody's bringing their kid up right up by Route 1, but if the green space were over here, well, now you can actually put a blanket out and have a lunch. So it matters not just that it's green space, but where it is, is your kid safe there, that kind of stuff. And the boat ramp idea, like there might be some really great ideas that citizens have been thinking about, and this could be seen as an opportunity to sort of clean up that area, make it useful for everybody. I don't know if the DOT works like that.
Well, we sometimes we do. It does complicate things sometimes. You get too many people, you can't get things done. You can't accomplish things. But that said, we always have a public process where comments can come in. And if the town has groups like that, whether, like a town may have a sidewalk committee, we're building a sidewalk. We do contact those groups and we give them the opportunity at various stages throughout the design to give us feedback. When we have a sketch or a conceptual plan that we can share, we could share that with the town, and the group can get together, look at it, and if they want to meet with me during that process to ask questions and go over that, I can certainly do that and get that feedback at other stages other than just that public meeting process that we do. We're open to that because, like you said, some great ideas come out of those sometimes, and if it makes a difference to the town, then it makes a difference to us because we're working with the community. We're in your community. We certainly want you folks to be happy.
Any other new questions or comments from the audience right now? Sure, yep.
So Catherine Lippman again. So I am manager of the Lincolnville Sewer District. And just thinking about the ferry terminal, I noticed in the report, the study, that you had talked about possibly eliminating the leach field there, making that more parking at some point, maybe that was an option. So just something that you would want to consider, for future, if you did eliminate your leach field or needed to get rid of your leach field, you do have accommodating a stub there at the property that you bought. I don't know what is the plan for that pump station. You have a pump station on that property. That's actually your connection to the sewer district, to the plant right there. So if you needed to get your ferry terminal hooked up into that, you would need to cross over to get into that. So just something to consider for future, if you're going to make a plan to hook into the sewer district, you have that option, and you can plan for that now, with all of whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So the idea of eliminating the leach field that's there, that was something that the Goral Palma came up with when we were walking the site. I honestly don't see that happening. It was an idea they came up with, but and I'm glad you mentioned this because it reminded me that as part of the demo of the building, the plan is to disconnect that pump station that's there, eliminate that and the well, and seal that off, seal the well off. We followed the DEP process for that. So all of that will be demolished and removed from that site. The building is scheduled to be demoed. It hasn't been put out yet, but they're working on putting that out for demolition this spring. I think that's it.
Right, so the actual pump station will be removed, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in the plan with the well, that'll be demolished and discontinued.
Right, so there's infrastructure in there to get to to connect to the main that goes to the wastewater treatment facility that will remain there always. So if your leach field went bad, and you needed an avenue to connect, it's there for your use. So as far as infrastructure setting up for that future, I don't know what the plan of, digging, well, I don't know what kind of digging you're gonna do, but just mentioning that it's something you might consider in your planning for future use.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
all.
Yeah, we have a utility coordinator for each project, and they'll be working with you to find out what we need to do in coordination with you to accomplish what you just described.
Okay, all right, that's great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Catherine. Okay, questions from the board? Yes, Steve.
I wanted to build upon what Gary Neville had said regarding the boat ramp and the use of the fishing pier down there, boat ramp, a lack of parking for boaters. It is a big concern for many in town. Myself as a select board member, anything that we can work on together to improve the overall situation down there, not just for the parking. I know there's some spaces that get used in your lot as well. So that is paramount to myself as far as planning this project out.
Understood.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, and thanks for coming. Yeah, I hope we take to heart what Gary mentioned about, Steve mentioned about the boat ramp, because that's a huge concern of the town, of course. Not only where it is, but where it can be, and we hope that whatever the people want to do with that isn't hampered by what the DOT ends up doing with their lot. And I'm also very concerned about the lighting as well. It would be a darn shame if it got blowed up, you know? But I also want to ask you specifically, I want to make sure that your plans don't exclude the present Lincolnville Harbor permit owners. Those people who are now parking, who work at the pier, and are now parking, you know, like just to the east of McKay Road, in that small lot there. And you haven't excluded them from having that privilege, as it were, though they pay for it, in your plans, have you?
I'm not following what your question is. I don't understand who you're talking about, the employees at the terminal?
No, I'm sorry, no, fishermen who use the fish pier,
Okay.
park in that small lot just east of McKay Road. And they have permits to park there. And that's been ongoing for quite a few years. And I don't know if your plans for your lot would affect their parking, future parking.
I don't believe so. It didn't come up in the discussions, but you're talking about the parking that's on Route 1?
No, it's that small little lot, just.
Adjacent to the beach.
Yeah, it's right on the beach, right behind the ferry terminal building, the ticket office.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the ferry terminal provides those permits, right? Parking permits for them now.
Yeah.
They'll continue to do that. They may relocate them, ask them to park over in this new parking lot, or maybe they'll keep them in the parking lot. That hasn't been determined yet, but that'll be up to the ferry terminal and how they want to do it and maybe they have some input on the design and they say, no, we want to put those people over here, so that the parking spaces may have to change in some layout to accommodate a larger vehicle perhaps, or something. But they'll still be accommodated as far as I know at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think, just to piggyback on that, and I know you just said that they would be accommodated, but it's really important that either we or them or both have a voice at the table when and if there are decisions like that being made. It's crucial to their living and their commercial fishermen, so we need to preserve that. And I just want to get it out there that someone on this end needs a voice at the table.
Understood. And again, when we talked with the terminal agents and the ferry terminal manager doing the study initially, they did indicate that they have no intentions of moving anybody out and not accommodating them. This would give us ample spots to cover the need during the peak months and even extra spaces. So we don't think there's any reason to even imagine that those people would be asked to park elsewhere.
Yeah, I just wonder in your overall site visit, if those parking spaces, which are, most of them are labeled, I think,
Yep.
as permitted parking, I just wonder if they were counted as your spaces or spaces that were there but not available in the overall count.
They were counted, but they were reserved just as they are today, at the use that they are today.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now.
I'm going to be repetitive and echo what everyone else has said, but I'm sure you've gleaned now that this select board and previous boards have been working really hard at trying to provide better access for our harbor users. We have a commercial fishing fleet. We have the Quicksilver, which provides transportation to Islesboro. We have a boat club. We have a strong recreational users of our harbor facilities, which are now and will be thoroughly couched within DOT projects. And so I would very much like both our harbor committee and the select board and any other relevant groups here in town to work with you as much as possible to see what we can either collaborate on or negotiate in terms of maintaining or improving our access to our harbor facilities, which is quite literally an appendage off of your roadway there. But that boat ramp, which I think is so funny in the Goral Palmer, it's like, there's a small boat ramp. It's like, that's our harbor, and we struggle greatly. Our fishermen don't have parking spaces. We have no trailer parking for recreational boaters. So, yeah, I think you definitely get by now that it's a real, from a municipal standpoint, it's something we've been really working very hard on for a long time. And so if this is an opportunity to be proactive and plan with you, that would be fantastic. And I guess to that point of public process and input, as a number of folks have asked, is there already a designated link or access point that you could share with us that we could put on our website for folks to access that? You said it's an ongoing online public input?
There's when we do the public meeting process, it's a 2-week period that there'll be plans posted, and the plans will show the conceptual, much similar to what I showed you earlier. And it'll have a page where people can go in and submit comments and questions, and we'll respond to those questions. If people desire a response, they can indicate that they do or not. But that's just a 2-week period for that process. We don't have anything set up as far as a web page for the project. It's not a large enough project typically to accommodate or to require a web page presence. But if you guys have a committee, or whether it's the sidewalk committee, harbor committee, or recreation committee, whatever, that you want to put in contact with me, I would gladly keep them posted as far as our progress. And if we get a set of plans that we want reviewed, then I can certainly share those with those folks. I prefer to have one point of contact but if there's two different groups, two points of contact is fine. That's not a big deal as long as I don't have 10 people I have to send things to, because I tend to forget sometimes.
Okay.
But yeah, happy to work with folks on things like that, coordinating, reviewing, getting comments and feedback.
Okay, great, we appreciate that. And then just from a procedural standpoint, is this project going to be working with our local land use ordinance? And our planning board, or is this something that operates beyond that?
It's, I guess to use your words, it's operating beyond that. We had our legal team look at it and they determined that we're not mandated to follow your ordinances, and that would restrict the amount of parking that we could get out of the lot if we did significantly. And that was part of what was looked at before we purchased the property, so that we knew what we were getting into as far as what, how much of the area we could use. So that was a critical factor, I guess, if you will.
Okay, and is that exclusive of the state shoreline zoning regulations also, or is that in compliance with those?
We're going to be in compliance with those, the 25-foot setback that I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. I think that's all of the questions I have. David, anything comes to mind that we didn't hit on? I feel like we covered a lot of ground.
You've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? No. Okay. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us. I know this is quite a large, well, not a large, but a dynamic project. It's large for us. It's pretty, obviously, as you've heard from our audience members, it's sort of right in the heart of our beach, which is really special. So it's a big deal for us, and so we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and look forward to staying in communication with you going into the future.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time and your patience with us. We'll be in touch. We'll certainly share the plans as they get, into the development stages. I just ask your patience and understanding. There may be things that you ask for that we just can't do, but we will certainly listen to all the options, all the requests, and we'll accommodate as much as we can. And hopefully everybody will be pleased in the end that we have a good, nice looking project that you guys can, be proud of. We get that it's right in the middle of your harbor area, and it, regardless of the size, it's impactful because of the location. No doubt about it. So we do understand.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great evening, and we'll be in touch.
Yes. See ya.
Thanks a lot.
And given that we have thoroughly exhausted our entire agenda at this point in the evening, if there's no further business that the board wishes to attend to, I will entertain a final motion.
Second.
Moved and well seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much.